And away we go. It is the Nightcap brought to you by Hail Mary Sports Bar. Hail Mary's located in Cheviot, right on Harrison Avenue. They're in the Dora District, so you can walk from bar to bar with your drinks. They've got 27 TVs, a 9-screen video wall, and every sports package that DirecTV offers. They will stream all the games, and every Cincinnati sporting event will always be on the video wall. They have food trucks on the weekends and randomly throughout the week, and they have a brand new cooler, brand new draft lines. And not only do they pour the coldest beer around, but they do so in 32.8 degree beer frosted glasses. All right, Aaron, recording a little late tonight. I had volleyball dad duties. That's going to be a regular thing for about the next 8 weeks, but here we are.
Here we are.
How was your day? You get a little Bengals preseason action in?
A little bit. I mean, I've watched till about halftime, and then we are doing this. It's there, whatever.
It's the final preseason game. Who cares? A lot of these guys will be selling you insurance tomorrow. So
it's just fun to see the second and third string holding their own against starters for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. I'm sure you and George will have plenty to discuss on George in the Jungle on Tuesday night, since talking about the Reds really isn't worth.
Oh, we got plenty on the Reds. It's just former Reds, not current.
Right. So today was the day that everybody has kind of been waiting for, as of course, the practice that we're not at. I predicted this yesterday. Practice was open today. Scott Satterfield spoke after practice. I was at volleyball. Keegan is in Myrtle Beach. So, of course, Scott Satterfield named his starting quarterback as Brendel Sorsby. Yeah. We're there every minute of every practice for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then the one time we can't make it is the news that everybody was waiting for. So, but not a surprise. If you've been following us for any amount of time, you know this is the expected move. I have talked about it a lot. I thought Brady Lichtenberg put up a heck of a fight. It says a lot about who he is as a teammate, who he is as a player, that he stood up to this challenge. They brought Brendel Sorsby in to play quarterback. And Lichty had a very good camp. He challenged him. He pushed him. I think you can unequivocally say he helped make Sorsby better, because Sorsby was playing his best by the end of camp. And that doesn't happen, if you're not being pushed, if you're not being challenged every day. But ultimately, the minute that Brendel Sorsby transferred to Cincinnati, and then especially the minute Brendel Sorsby did not listen to overtures from Lincoln Riley, the quarterback whisperer, and USC at the end of the portal process, and decided to stick with Cincinnati, the writing was on the wall that if he didn't screw it up, he was going to be the starting quarterback.
Well, let's be honest. Lichty could have done what Ben Bryant did, his first transfer out from Cincinnati, and gone to a MAC school and tried to see what he wanted to do, like be a starter and figure it out.
Much more clear-cut path than it would have been.
Sure. Well, I mean, OU was they had what's his name, son, for a minute, and then he was gone. But Oklahoma State's coach.
Gundy, Gunner Gundy.
They had Gundy for a minute, and then he left. So you might have been able to get a spot at OU, but it's all to say that he stuck it out. He didn't abandon ship when he could have tried to find a spot somewhere else where, to your point, it could have been a much clearer path to get to where everyone's ultimate goal is, and that's to be a starter. But here we are.
So, I think it sets the table for the beginning of the Brendel Sorsby era. I think we've discussed this a decent amount in the past couple weeks as we've gone through camp. I think the key to success here is not putting yourself in a position where he has to win you games right away. I think you want to lean on the running game. I think the most important part, and this will sound maybe silly a little bit, but I think the most important part to the Brendan Sorsby era starting successfully is going to rely heavily on the defense, Aaron. Would you agree with that?
I think it's far-fetched. We saw what happened when the defense was, I don't want to say atrocious, but it was not good last season. And
they started off pretty good, and the offense just never gave them enough support. And then they fell apart. They collapsed at the end.
If your defense is not keeping the offense off the field, like I don't know, there has to be a balancing act. And last season there was not any type of balancing act. It was I guess it was all bad, if you want to say that.
It was bad. But I think the key for this thing to work as structured, as designed, is that you can't consistently be playing from behind and ask him or put on his shoulders the weight of the entire offense. Yeah. Like go lead us back. Like, yeah, we're down 14. Now we got to throw it around and try to like storm back in a game. I don't think that's, at least at this point in his career, I don't think that's who he's going to be. I think he is going to be a guy that is at his best when they are playing either with a lead or playing in close games where the running game is the driver of the car. And then Sorsby can work off play action. He can, work the quick game, because we've talked about his ability to get the ball over the middle, to get the ball out in the flats, to do some of these short game stuff that they couldn't execute last year. And those are things that, I don't think you want to option him. Read option, yeah. Option, absolutely not. No. I will shoot that down quick. You've only got 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Do you really want them out in space trying to pitch balls and getting lit up?
Saying,
no.
At the scrimmage, they ran some option. I'm just saying.
It's something you can have in the playbook to run as a surprise here and there.
I was only bringing it up because we have not brought it up at all.
Yeah, but that's because I don't think it's going to be something like a sprint, like a speed option.
A wrinkle.
Where the quarterback just, takes a couple steps and then pitches, or read option, stuff like that. Sorsby's going to run the ball. But I don't think you want him exposed taking shots from linebackers and safeties and defensive ends.
No, probably not.
No. Just the thought of that in my brain immediately.
The quarterback competition wasn't that close.
Right. Like, he's the starter. Like, you want him to be your main guy. But, I think that's going to be the key. Is we didn't talk about it last year because it didn't happen. Complementary football. When teams are good, one begets the other. Good defense allows you to run the ball. Allowing you to run the ball sets up play action, sets up a little bit more structured passing game where you're not just standing back there 35 times, 40 times, trying to throw the ball around because you're down 14-3, in the early second quarter in every game. Like, they can't have that because, yes, I think he's a very talented quarterback. Yes, I think the 2-3 years, whatever it is, that Brendan Sorsby is the quarterback here can be very fruitful offensively in this system. But right away, right out of the jump, he's a guy that started 7 games. And he played in a mess of a system at Indiana. He had a couple good games. He had a couple rough games. I think, it behooves us to set realistic expectations that this is not going to be all of a sudden Brian Kelly, Tony Pike, Marty Gilliard, Armand Benz. You know what I mean? Like,
it'd be a lot more fun if it was.
Sure, but I think people forget that it took 3 years to get to that. Like Ben Mock for as gutsy and ballsy as he was, that wasn't a
Ah.
super high-flying offense.
The bionic arm.
I love Ben Maughan. And then 2008, the defense was really the star of that team. And then as that season wore along, Pike got more comfortable, and then Caleros, that was a progression to get to that point with BK where they were slinging it around and, they were putting pressure on every defense that they faced. But it wasn't something that happened blink of an eye. And I think it's important to keep that in mind, that this is still a young guy. He's a redshirt sophomore. And there's still a lot of progression that is going to happen as Brendan Sorsby gets more reps, gets more game action, and becomes a better quarterback. And I just want to make sure we're not setting a situation up where the fan base is expecting him to come out and complete 27 passes a game for 330 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's not what this is going to be.
I think I'd be surprised if he threw it 27 times, truthfully. Total.
I think 25, 27 times a game is probably about right, because I think some of that, you have to remember, is going to be an extension of the run game, getting the ball out into the flat, 4, 5, 6 passes a game where it's, essentially a handoff that they're using to move the ball. So I think 25 attempts a game is probably about right. I think, in this day and age, you want to see a good quarterback be above 60%, probably closer to 65%, to be efficient in the way offenses are run these days. I think that's within the reasonable expectation.
If we're looking at 35, 40 times, though, that's where you're wondering where the wheels fell off.
Right. Anything getting close to 30, I think they're probably throwing the ball more than they want to. Unless it's one of those crazy 85 play, 90 play games. You know what I mean?
I'm just excited to see. We knew with Emory coming in from Arizona State, he came from not a great season before he got to Cincinnati. Not a great track record, honestly, anywhere he had been at that point.
He had one really good one above
his
average
first season
in Florida.
In Florida. So it had been a couple of years that he was trying to get back on track. Brendan was tested at Indiana. Call it what you will. You can say that it was a garbage offense at Indiana, and I get that. But it was still against Big Ten opponents. And
sure.
I'm curious to see how that translates to go from having faced Big Ten opponents and composing yourself fairly well to what that looks like against the Big 12. And you've run against a 3-3-5 the entirety of your offseason. And when you start looking at defenses that aren't a 3-3-5, how much better can you be?
There's going to be a lot of 3-3-5. I mean, there might be a lot of 4-2-5 or whatever, but he's going to be facing 5-man secondaries. That's just how college football is anymore. I also think you make an important point, Aaron. Emory, by the time he got here, we knew what he was.
He was a reclamation project.
He had played at Arizona State. He was at the end of that college experience. He was going to be something similar, barring, a complete unexpected turnaround. And our guy Marcus on the boards was adamant that, look, I watched Florida. I also root for Florida. I saw what this guy was at Florida. Here's what you're getting. And he turned out to be right. There was optimism that he would maybe, be different than that, but he wasn't. With Sorsby, he is still very, very early in this college process. So I think it's just it's worth
still
putting
trending
in the back
up
of your mind that we're not at a point where we have seen this guy start 25 games. We have seen him start 7, and you're still dealing with the upswing, hopefully, of the learning curve. So I disagree. I saw a ranking of quarterbacks today, and it had him of Power 5 quarterbacks, and it had him somewhere down around 60 of like 70. And if that's the case, we're going to have a lot of long nights here on the post-game show.
Lincoln Riley ain't making a call for number 60.
I don't think so either. So that's the quarterback battle. Brendan Sorsby wins. We will see you here soon. That is the Nightcap, brought to you by Hail Mary Sports Bar, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!